Hello and welcome. Welcome to another Solution Sunday, because the soul is the solution.
Hello,
I
welcome.
am Lisa Warner, and I am here today with my friend Chani Greiner.
Perfect. Yes.
And Chani is a masterful herbalist. Chani and I met in person at some of her herbal classes when she was teaching us how to create salves and tinctures and fire cider and having ceremonial cacao ceremonies. And so then she moved away and I haven't had a chance to catch up with her for a while. So here we are today catching up, and we are talking about nature's apothecary. Nature provides so much medicine on so many different levels. And today we are going to be talking with Chani about nature's apothecary. Chani, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again.
It is great. So you had your own herbal store. You have an online store. You had an in-person store, which is how I met you here in Lake Placid, New York. And I miss having your store. I miss being able to just run up and grab things
Same.
off the shelf. But I know you have online, so we can always order. But when you were teaching your classes, I was astonished at the depth of your knowledge. So talking about herbs, what got you into being really interested in herbs and nature?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was a small child, I was very ill. So, like many people that have found natural healing and herbal remedies, I was really looking for solutions for myself for a very long time. And doctors didn't have answers for me. Test results were coming back like everything was normal, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Right.
And so I actually found Susan Weed when I was a teenager. So when I was 17 years old, I doubled up on my last 2 years of high school, and I moved to Woodstock, New York, and went and lived with Susan Weed in Woodstock, New York for 6 weeks for her shamanic herbal apprenticeship. So that was kind of like a deep dive into herbalism at a pretty young age. And now, this is 20 years later. So she really opened my eyes, though, to like women's groups and the spiritual aspect of healing, and really getting into the rhythms of nature, eating with the patterns of the seasons. She was just a blessing in my life to really open my eyes to all these other paths and traditional knowledge that's been around for thousands of years. And right now I'm actually in graduate school for acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, which is like a whole nother level of herbalism and very challenging. I have a pretty strong base in Ayurveda and wise woman herbalism, and now I'm really getting into the Chinese herbs. So, it's really amazing to me that there's always something new. There's always something to keep my mind active and keep me learning and keep me on my toes. The human body is so intricate and amazing that, there's not one answer for every person. There's an individual answer for every one of us. So it really has kept me on my healing path, and along that path, I've been able to help others and share that knowledge that I've learned over the years.
Wow, I love that. Do you find that there's a lot of similarity between the different, between a wise woman and a Chinese herbal approach?
No, they're completely different. Wise woman herbs are all about simples, one herb at a time. Very harmless remedies at first. We start with doing nothing, and then you move to exercises of the mind and Reiki, and then you move into foods, and then you move into herbs, and then like way down the line is acupuncture and surgery and things like that. So they are very, very, very different. However, I feel like they both have a very like underlying base of like treat the whole person, which is what I'm always trying to go for. So although they are very different theories, ultimately we're not looking at like individual problems that people are having. We're really looking for underlying causes. We're looking to really help these people for a long term, rather than coming up with immediate remedies to fix a problem. You're coming up with long-term solutions to help the person become more whole and healthy. So in that way, they're very similar, but the actual application of it, they're very, very, very different. Yeah.
Wow. So, nature's been around for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
But now all the natural remedies, they're called alternative.
Which is crazy, right?
Why do you think that is? Where'd that come from?
Well, the American Medical Association, when they came about in the 30s, they pretty much outlawed all herbalists and came up with all the laws for licensing. And they actually almost destroyed Chinese acupuncture, which I just learned. I didn't realize this, but in China, they had actually gone to Western medicine, and they were looking at completely eradicating Chinese herbal medicine until the people spoke up and had like this big uprising and brought Chinese medicine like back. But we almost lost Chinese herbal medicine because of the influence of Western medicine. So I think a lot of it's political, a lot of it's just the society that we live in has gone more towards that, mainstream emergency Western medicine, which has its place. I don't diss modern medicine when it comes to like, saving our lives and extending our lives and like recovery from like trauma, car accidents, things like that. Like you go to the hospital, you don't go to your herbal cabinet for those things. But they have not perfected their technique in health by any means. They are very focused on saving your life, getting your parts and pieces back together, and then send you home. So that's kind of where we come in. It's like we can coexist when we utilize our alternative medicines to help heal ourselves after major traumas, life injuries, emotional trauma. Our society is like just not very well equipped to deal with mental health still. And, emotionally and physically, because of the emotional trauma, a lot of that emotional trauma becomes physical, which doctors have a very hard time identifying. That's kind of where our herbalists and our acupuncturists and all of our alternative healers can come into play nowadays. But yeah, it's amazing to me that we're considered this alternative practice when we are the healers that have had this knowledge for thousands of years. This knowledge goes back centuries, goes back further than we can actually track. We don't actually know the root because it's so far back, and a lot of it started with oral tradition. A lot of it wasn't written down at the beginning. And then over time, people started to keep account of it and write books, and then we were able to track its progress from there. But modern medicine really came from herbs too. If you look at our pharmaceuticals, a lot of them, their origins come from natural substances in our world. So yeah, it's it's a great point. We aren't really the alternative healers. We're the primary healers. They're the alternative ones.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it seems like it might be just kind of a language thing, but it's really incredibly important for people to start to like recognize that this whole thing is backwards,
Right.
that we are literally being taught backwards.
Yeah. And we're taught to give our power away, which is the most frustrating part to me, because like we know ourselves the best, right? We're with ourselves every day. we know what we're going through. We know our signs and symptoms. We know our past. It's like when you walk into a doctor's office, you have 10 minutes with that person, maybe, to explain what's going on. They're getting a very, very small snippet of the picture of your life, and you're expecting them to tell you the answers about yourself. And it's really the opposite. It's really, we should be going in with, I have this going on, blah, blah, blah. But like, ultimately, we have the answers within ourselves. And yes, we have these people of authority in our world to confirm or, run tests and really figure out what the true essence is of what's going on with you. But ultimately, do they really know that? I mean, that's their goal, right? They run all these tests and they ask you all these questions, but at the end of the day, most of us go home pretty dissatisfied and unhappy with the answers that we were given, if we were even given any, other than come back in 6 weeks and we'll have another payment here for you. We'll put we'll put your payments through your insurance again so that we get paid.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's really, we're in a world right now too where things are shifting, and I think people are recognizing that like we have a lot of these answers ourselves, that we can find a lot of this knowledge, that we don't have to always be looking outside for answers. And that's what we're here to promote. We're really here to say, yes, I can help you, but I can help you help yourself. I'm not going to help you, like, period. I'm going to give you some information, give you some knowledge, give you some direction. And then it's up to you to take those steps and make those changes. A huge part of herbalism is incorporating it into your everyday life. They call it compliance in the pharmaceutical industry, or even the supplement industry. They even call it compliance, which is really interesting to me. It's a very salesy word to me. Whereas with herbal medicine, you're looking at, making your own food more often, eating healthier, incorporating herbs and mushrooms into soups and stews and broths, and really like getting that vital nutrients from the earth instead of, eating fast food and then depending on a supplement or an herb. Like those, it doesn't quite work. You really have to own your health, and when you're going through a lot of hard times, that can be very difficult, to, make your own food and be accountable and take your herbs every day. But I find when you're incorporating them into like your meals and really just making it a part of your everyday existence, these are things we're already doing. If you have a little blend of an herb seasoning mix, with nettles and some other, super nutritive herbs in it, you're getting so much out of that. You don't get a ton out of vitamins that are in pill form. It's like nowadays we have a lot more science where you can get them fermented and things like that, so your body can absorb them better. But of course, food is ultimately our medicine. So that's what I love about herbalism. It's like, and Chinese medicine, that's one of its really stellar points to me, is like a lot of this is making your broths and getting those mushrooms and herbs into your diet every single day, so that you're focused on longevity, whole body health, and resilience against whatever might be out there that your body has to fight against.
Mhm. Yeah. And, we look at all the things that nature provides naturally, the,
Yeah.
the vast varieties of foods and fruits and herbs and, all of these different substances for our use. Nature is here for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at, in the last 100 years, it's like, here's a pill, these are the pill. And we have literally disconnected our consciousness from nature. We've allowed our consciousness to be kind of misdirected.
It's
And
true.
we go into the store, what I'm finding, completely disconcerting and mind-boggling these days is when you go into the store, there, if you're looking for real food,
Mm-hmm.
it is virtually impossible to find
Mm-hmm.
the organic food, fruits and vegetables. That organic section is getting smaller and smaller. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's not organic, what is it?
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
people's like, oh, well, here's all these different food. What are you actually
What are
getting?
you eating? Yeah. And is it even from the United States? Like,
Right?
uh, the 100-mile diet's a real thing. Like, we really should be trying to eat as local as possible to stay as healthy as possible. And yeah, it's like the fruits and vegetables, that's one thing. They're pretty much coming from the United States, but the chickens and things like that that get exported over to China to clean them and then shipped back, it's like, oh my gosh, what? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, we really, as consumers, it's really up to us to make really conscious spending choices because our money talks, and I know it's more expensive to buy locally and to buy organic and to really check our labels. I don't know if you know about the label thing too, but I'll have to look it up again, but I think we all kind of know that like organic vegetables start with 9 and the other ones are just 4 digits, but I think it's 8. I believe it's when they start with an 8, which is like just happening now, that it's like showing that it's a GMO crop. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to verify that
yeah,
number yourself with the Plu codes, but I mean, they are kind of telling us. They're just like hiding the information.
exactly.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy, and really we have to like stay away from that middle section of the grocery store, right? It's like we try to shop on the outsides, get our fruits and vegetables and our fresh dairy products and things like that. But yeah, and I'm like, I've been gluten-free now for almost a decade. Actually, I think it's over a decade now. And I have found that while it is easier to find like gluten-free items in the store, they're becoming tainted and hurting me just as much as wheat-filled products. So I am very conscious of having to eat whole, real foods and to make it myself. I feel like that energetic quality of making your own food too is kind of like fluffed over a lot in our society. But it's so important. And if you don't make it yourself, we should at least be like, imprinting the energetic qualities that we want in our food before we ingest it. Because who knows what all these people are doing and thinking and feeling when they're preparing your food. So yeah, we live in a society where we've kind of handed over the plate and said, here, just make it for me. And it's like, we still have to have that accountability ourselves to accept what we want to accept. I'm a big believer in shifting energies and being a Reiki master and healer on that aspect too. It's very important to take in what we want and to transform and transmutate those energies into something else. Yeah, you could eat a McDonald's hamburger once a year, but like, you better bless it or do whatever you're going to do to imprint that energy into it. I still wouldn't recommend it myself, but
I mean, and it's also, to become aware of
yeah,
where that food is actually like what's in those
right.
ingredients, what ingredients are actually there and where
Yeah.
are they coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And once we start to dig a little bit deeper and we start to find the answer to some of those questions, it's like, do I actually want to keep supporting this?
Right.
Because if I
Exactly.
keep eating these things, I'm actually contributing to the
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Right. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And ultimately, I do think the answer is local all the time. It's like,
Yeah, for sure.
it's really the only way to actually know where your food is coming from and to actually support real people, to,
That's
to
it.
be putting your money back into your community. It goes a lot further than just our health. It extends to the health of all of our community members when we're eating locally. So, I
Precise.
mean, yeah. Mhm.
You know, it's like then we create our own local economy as well.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
when we're gifting our money to those, we're giving ourselves the gift
Mhm.
of real food, for one
Right.
thing. Like that's a
Mhm.
gift that we're giving to ourselves. We don't think about it as like, I have to pay for this food.
Right.
Actually, you're giving the gift to yourself. You're giving a gift of money to the person that takes the time and the love and the energy to
Mhm.
actually, and the interest to actually grow good, natural, healthy foods that are organic and really provide.
Yeah.
So it becomes this gifting economy where we're giving to another while we're giving the gift to ourselves. And
Mhm.
when we keep that money local, we start to grow the economy, because the more those farmers gather income, the more they can expand, the more they can do things that really help and supplement their businesses. And yeah, they can provide a better space for their animals or their plants. You know, they can get the things that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm. That's the world I wanna live in.
Exactly. Right? It's like when we start to look at where's the food coming from, is it actually even food when you look at the labels and you can't pronounce any of the ingredients?
Mhm.
There's a red flag there, people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
like, do we want to continue to support these operations that are working directly against our health?
Mhm. Yeah. And then it makes it so that, then you have to kind of take a step back and do like, um I hate to use the word cleanse, but it's really rehabilitate your body, rejuvenate yourself after you've put it through some harsh times. But part of like harm reduction is that maybe we shouldn't put ourselves through those harsh times that we have to then recover from. But
Yeah,
um
yeah,
it's all
and
about balance too, I feel. So I feel like, we try to make the best choices that we can. We're conscious of where the food's coming from and, who it's profiting, etc. We're stepping in the right direction. And I've actually found that, when you find the local farmers and go to the farmers markets and find people that are, selling their eggs. You see eggs signs on the eggs are like $6, $7 at the store right now. I can go down to my neighbor's house and get eggs for $3 or $4 right now. It's like it's actually becoming less expensive to support local where I'm at this moment in time because of the crazy way that the egg manufacturers are I don't know what's going on with the egg industry right now, but I've actually seen a bunch of memes about it. Like they're very expensive though, so I don't know if they were and that's the thing. It's like what happened? They don't tell us what happened, right? Was there a contamination? Like why are there so few eggs right now? They did the same thing with chicken a couple of months ago or maybe a year ago, and there was like a huge contamination salmonella outbreak that like they just kind of like took all the chicken off the market, and it was like, okay, so now we don't have chicken right now, we don't have eggs. They're not really explaining why. It doesn't really make sense. So at least
yeah.
I feel like the local market is more consistent too. It's healthier, it's more consistent, you're supporting real people. Yeah, it's really something that we should all be working towards. And a lot of those people that are farmers, they're also growing herbs and they're growing medicines. I have a lot of connections with people in upstate New York still that are growing medicinal herbs on their farms. And because I can't grow things for myself right now, I'm supporting them to grow a lot of the medicinal herbs for me. So I feel like it also transcends just the food industry. It really crosses over into our clean medicine too. Um, because you can get herbs at CVS or you can get herbs from your local farmer and they're very different.
Yes, they are. So so what do you do with herbs? What are your favorite things to do? How do you use them in your business?
So personally really enjoy making salves and tinctures. For my business, most people I have found are really looking for like pain relief and things that are really helping them to like repair long-term muscle repair injuries and help them manage arthritis and like helping them to thrive on a daily basis. So like my Care Bomb, I have a product that's called Care Bomb, and there's a 500 milligram and a 250 milligram version of them with CBD included. That's my number one seller, the 500 milligram. I can't keep it in stock. I literally just had to make more this past week. And I personally think it's because it's not just CBD, it has all the herbs in there too. Specifically comfrey, I think, is like the shining star of the formula because it's for long-term repair and recovery of muscles, joints, tendons, and as deep as bone. Native Americans used to use comfrey poultices for like broken ribs and on areas of the body that they couldn't reach. So like in our modern day, when we infuse that plant into an oil, we extract all those same properties and then put that on our body every single day, we're getting that same effect of the long-term repair. CBD also has long-term effects, but the beauty of it and why it became so popular in our society is it does have that instant action too. So you're kind of getting the best of all the herbal medicine. You're getting that instant relief, but then you're also getting that long-term recovery and repair. For me personally, for the herbs, again, I really think it's important to do something every day. So like today I have a chai and I put chaga in my chai. It's something very simple. I think that just having like chaga steeping on your stove every day is kind of like one of those little staples in life where you can turn it into hot chocolate, you can turn it into golden milk. I actually working at Forever Wild Apothecary in Lake Placid was kind of life-changing for me in the way that we developed all of our beverages, because that's literally what we did. We would take the base as like something that was very healthy and medicinal, like the chaga, like the chai or the chaga chai, or really just we could just start with plain chaga so that you have kind of an unflavored just chaga decoction on your stove. And then you can take that and incorporate whatever you want into it. You can, like I said, make it a hot chocolate, make it something tasty. The golden milks are incredible too for pain, because then you're getting the turmeric in there. If you add a little bit of that black pepper, you're really getting all the benefits of the turmeric. And, making it something that's like fun and tasty, I think is the key to herbal medicine. Bone broths that are infused with herbs, nettle infusion. Nettle infusion is actually Susan Weed's like number one. Like if you do anything, or if you don't do anything, do one thing, drink your nettle infusion every day. That's like her thing. So I kind of feel like we should all kind of pick one of those things. It's like, I really gravitate towards the chaga because it's native to where I'm from. I can go find it in the woods whenever I want. I actually have people gift it to me like all the time. It's kind of crazy, but I have more chaga than I know what to do with. Right. But it's a free resource from the woods of where I'm from. That's an anti-cancer and longevity promoting tonic. Like, I don't like how many things in life are that easy to incorporate that are gonna, hopefully prevent you from getting cancer one day. Not very many things, it's like, so when we utilize these resources that we have, we're really just focusing our attention on our health, but also making it easy. It should be easy. A lot of times people will say, well, I forgot to take my tincture. I took it one day and then I forgot for 2 or 3. But when you have your beverage, like how often do you forget to have your morning coffee? It's like, not many people forget if you're a coffee drinker. For me, I'm a tea drinker. But again, I have my tea every morning. So it's already in my regimen. It's already part of my repertoire. It's very simple to just add a few extra steps in there so that it becomes healthy and special and magical and all those happy things.
Yeah, there's so much magic in nature.
So much. The
And
mycelium world is it just blows my mind. It's pretty amazing.
yeah, everything, talking about the mycelium world, everything is connected.
It's so true.
And everything is connected through that. There's conversations happening in
Literally.
non-physical or non-verbal conversations are happening in the woods between all plants, all
Chemical conversations.
right?
And that's the same thing that we're doing with each other. I really hope people see that one day soon when it comes to looking at all this mushroom research that's out there. It's like chemical communication is a very real thing, and you and I are doing it right now via distance. When you're standing next to someone, though, that chemical communication is so strong and powerful and can be influenced and changed and manipulated and in a positive, good way.
And in a negative way.
Or in a negative way, which we tend to do more often as a society. But
right?
Yeah.
It's like, becoming aware of both directions,
Exactly.
People are like, oh, I just want to focus just on the positive. Well, if you're not looking at the negative and you're not aware, like that can seep you right in, and all of a sudden you're going in the positive direction, and suddenly it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened? It's not so positive over here anymore.
Right. Yeah. That's why I love alchemy and shamanism too. It's like you're always looking at both sides of everything, and transcendental TCM too, traditional Chinese medicine. I almost said transcendental meditation. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I mean, they're all looking at it from that viewpoint, and yeah, everything's connected. You can't have dark without light. You can't have positive without negative. Everything coexists. And like with yin and yang, it's like it's called the interdependence of yin and yang. They can't coexist without one another. You can't have all dark or all light. You have to have a little bit of everything. And it's on a spectrum, it's always finding that balance.
Yes. Michelle says, place your intentions into any herbs, plants, mushrooms, and they will do their magic.
That's so true. So true.
Absolutely.
One of the coolest things I learned along my path was actually energetic imprints of herbs, flowers, and gemstones into your auric field. And it took me like a long time to wrap my head around that. That one was very, existential, but it has come up several times in different Reiki sessions with people and different healing sessions. And boy, I'll tell you, it's real when that energy comes through. And so like, for instance, I had someone with severe anxiety, but they were on medications and they couldn't take passion flower because they were contraindicated. So instead of giving them passion flower tincture, I just energetically imprinted passion flower into their auric field. And I was like, I don't know, let's try it, see if it works. That was like my first time doing it. The results that this woman got were like she had been taking passion flower physically for months after just a few weeks. And that really was a powerful shift in my way of thinking too, because yes, I'm an energy healer, I'm an herbalist, like I believe in all of this, but then to actually have people come back with reports of how powerful it really is, and then to start doing it on myself and feel the effects on myself. Our minds just need to stay open. We are energetic beings that are connected to everything. And whether it's a physical substance or something that we are energetically putting out there into the world or into our bodies, everything holds power, and we choose what power it holds. We choose whether we're going to let that positive influence come in or that negative, because everything has both. Which side of the coin are you going to focus on? But we have to acknowledge that there's two sides of the coin.
Exactly.
Really, we're just the coin.
Yeah. And we can place our attention on either side.
Exactly.
And when we're experiencing things that we don't enjoy experiencing, it's like to be able to recognize, wait a second, I've allowed some of the dark side of the coin to come into my light. It's like, let me clear that out. Let me alchemize that, because I don't need it. Like, I don't need to carry that around. Like, I
Right.
can be the light, like, and I don't have to be influenced or manipulated by the dark.
Absolutely.
But means I have to have my light shining fully bright. Like, I have to have my awareness fully open in order to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So going into that subtle energy medicine, that's why I think all of the flower essences work just the way you're talking about. Everything, when we're saying we're energetic beings, everything is energy. And it's either energy that's in physical form, like our bodies, or it's energy that's in potential form, in non-physical form.
Yep.
And we're so trained to look only at the physical stuff. And we have been taught to ignore all of the non-physical subtle energies. But it's the non-physical subtle energies that are driving us. They're the current that is taking us in different directions. And if we're not aware that we're being swept up in a current that's going in a really bad direction, it's like we just keep going along going, wow, I don't know why this isn't working. Like, when we start to pay attention to the subtle energies, we can clear our energy field. We can clear out all of that stuff and raise our energy field up and experience something completely different than when we're not aware of our energy.
So true. Yep, 100%. I actually just saw something the other day about breaking your day up into a couple different segments. Like, it said quarters in the article that I was reading, but it made me think you could split it up anyway. But they were saying that, like, if you have like a negative experience or something goes wrong in your day, most people are like, they kind of stay in that energy for the rest of the day. But we can consciously come back to our bodies and ground ourselves and kind of have checkpoints where we can say, how's my day going? It's, mid-morning. What do I need to be focused on? And kind of shifting our energy and our mindset, and doing that several times a day to keep yourself on the path that you want to be on. Because I feel like naturally we do get influenced by our environment, people around us. Life happens, right? But if we have those little checkpoints throughout our day to kind of keep us back on target, your day doesn't have to continue that way. At any point you can kind of take a second, regroup, and choose to focus on the positive instead of staying in the energy that you were in previously, which I think is very helpful for me, because I still to this day struggle with anxiety. Part of it is just my genetic makeup. I'm predispositioned to have a lot of anxiety. So I have like a million different tips and tricks for managing it. And a lot of it is just my mind gets taken away by people and things and experiences. And I do very consciously have to bring myself back and say, no, these outside influences are not going to impact my internal environment. And I acknowledge that they have, and it stops here. And from here, we're going to move forward with a smiling face. We're going to project that energy. We're going to be the change, right? Always turn the other cheek, and it's hard, but it is something that brings me a lot more health and wellness in my life when I'm able to, stop myself within that rambling mindset that I can get into and focus on I'm right here. I'm right now. Everything's fine. I'm okay. Let's go on with our day the way we want to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to experience massive anxiety as well. And it was debilitating,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and finally, once I finally understood that anxiety is actually an energy unto itself,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's just an energy, and that all the thoughts that go with that energy, it's the thoughts that are attached to the energy, and if I clear out the energy, the thoughts go away. And so I started to, every time I started to feel that energy, I would just breathe it out, and I would consciously choose to change that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that enough, it's like I cleared it out of my entire energy field, and then I never experienced it again because the
Beautiful.
energy was no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, that was really a changing point for me. It shifted the way I looked at everything, because I suddenly understood what it meant when it said everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
And all your alarm bells are going off in your body, and that actually creates a cycle that is a pattern within your brain too. And it
right?
becomes reinforced over time. And I think one of the big changing points with my anxiety too is I learned that anxiety and excitement are very, very similar emotions,
Exactly.
but they
Yep,
have completely different physiological responses.
exactly.
So every time I get like anxious, I try to turn it into excitement. It's like, no, I'm just excited. And then I get all the serotonin and dopamine and all these happy chemicals instead of, getting depressed. And
Right?
yeah,
Exactly. It's like, I love that because it's so true. It's like anxiety and excitement are two sides of the same coin.
hmm
So it's the coin is a frequency that our bodies pick up, that frequency, when we're talking about like the mycelium layer,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that everything is communicating. The mycelium layer in our physical body is like called fascia, and
yeah.
neural, and neurological, nerves that they pick up the subtle energies around us. So then
hmm
our body is sending us the signal, you're in this energy. And
Yeah,
we're like, oh my God, I'm anxious. Well, the body is simply showing us that this frequency is here.
right.
And if we gather that frequency up, that as the energy of anxiety, and transmute it in the moment, we're like, oof, we can move ourselves out of that little pocket of anxiety that we're in, sort of like currents in the ocean. It's like, oh, I'm in this current of anxiety. Well, I can actually move up into a different layer, and then I'm not in that anymore.
hmm It's so amazing. And I'm really glad you brought up fascia too, because the other day in our one of our classes for Chinese medicine, they were saying that Chinese medicine practitioners and surgeons have the most intricate knowledge of the fascia in our bodies. And every other profession in our modern medicine pretty much ignores fascia, but surgeons can't. So they have like a very intricate knowledge of all of this fascia running throughout our body. And it's literally like the mycelium of us. And it does communicate and talk to, and they're finding too that like neurologically, when we do things, we get physical impulses slightly before we have a mental impulse to do something, which is like so backwards from what we have understood the last century of science to be. We all think you have a thought and then your body does the action, right? But in reality, our body does the reaction like a couple milliseconds before our brain tells it to. So it's like we're actually living slightly ahead of our current reality, which to me opened up this whole like aha moment of like, I'm actually projecting into the future a little bit. It's like I am truly chemically, like physically and chemically, not to mention emotionally and spiritually, but very realistically, physically, I'm projecting myself just a little tiny bit into the future, which like opens up this whole doorway of, like you were saying, all of these electrons of possibility out there. You haven't really focused on one yet. It's your choice. Which one are you going to focus on?
Exactly. Like we are creating our own
You're
reality.
creating every moment of every second.
We're projecting our experiences out
Right.
onto the view screen of our reality.
Mhm.
Like what I have realized that manifestation is instant. Like
Mhm.
it's not that it's possible, it is actually what's happening.
Mhm.
And how we choose to look at something becomes our reality.
Mhm.
So wow, we have uh, Michelle saying insects and plants have language too. Nature is freaking awesome. Nature's always communicating with each other at all times in sync, perfect and awe.
Mm.
And we have Kathy on. Kathy says, I bet Chani never told you she was our first wellness coordinator here at the lodge.
We had some good times at the Homeyer Lodge.
Lake Clear Lodge, Lake Clear, New York. If anybody's looking
Yeah.
for a beautiful vacation spot to come and completely relax in nature and bring yourself back into nature in
Mhm.
harmony with some amazing food, check out the Lake Clear Lodge. Shameless plug for you, Kathy.
Kathy.
And then we have Keith on with us this morning, and Keith is making an incredible movie that's going to be coming out in the spring, early summer, called The Inside Effects.
Oh,
Talking
fun.
about the side effects, but the inside effects,
We'll
how
definitely
the
have to watch
body
that.
feels itself. So talking about, how we perceive our reality or how we can alchemize things. Last night I saw a little snip of the movie, and I'm kind of primarily I'm featured a lot in the movie, let's just say.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the little clip from the movie last night, I realized like how major this movie actually is going to be. And I had a little freak out moment, and I totally flipped out and thought, I can't just go from anonymity to having like millions of people know who I am or see, like this is gonna, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? I like just had a little freak out moment, and I went like, I can't do this, and like started going way down a rabbit hole. But
Mm.
in the moment, being able to go, wait a second, that I don't need to create that. I don't need to project that into my future. That
Right.
doesn't need to be the timeline that unfolds. Like,
Mhm.
snap myself out, clear it all out, and then, tell the truth about it. I'm a capable, confident, joyful woman, speaking my truth and leading by
Yeah.
example. Like, that's the actual truth. That feels better. Phew. All right. I cleared all that stuff out. So
Yeah.
everything is energy.
It's so true. And hopefully you're going to have a really powerful impact on a lot of people through that movie.
Movie's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. I
Yes.
don't know if I have ever told you this story about when I went to the Maharishi University of Management. That was in like, I think it was 2004, 2005. I went there for Ayurvedic medicine. And Dr. John Hagland, who's a really world famous physics professor, was my professor at the time. And during that time was when they released the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh
Have you
yeah.
ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
You
Many
must
times.
have, right? Yeah,
Right.
it's a cult classic for our kind.
Yeah.
um, but we got to go see the premiere of that movie with him, like as a class trip. And so that was that. I still watch that movie all the time. Like literally, it's on my computer, and like I will turn it on and walk around, and I'll be cleaning the house or whatever, and it's playing in the background because I feel like it's such an impactful movie to me to just keep remembering that everything is a potential reality. I am the creator of my reality, period. There's no question about it. And, even though it's been knowledge in my mind for a very long time, it took me years to take the right steps to start making it so that I was positively influencing my reality more. But yeah, I feel like this movie could be like the next What the Bleep Do We Know? So,
Right? Keith is just saying Lynn McTaggart from What the Bleep is in his movie.
Oh,
So,
really? That's exciting.
yeah.
Yeah. Very neat. But yeah, we need more movies like that. The cinematic genres nowadays are I don't know what's happening with our world.
Yeah, when we started looking from the really larger picture and see
Yeah,
what's
we need
actually
more
going on in
positive
the
things to
world.
be watching, and
Yes,
music and movies are very powerful. They influence every cell in our body. I
exactly.
can't wait to watch it, honestly. That'll be on my list of things to acquire once it comes out.
Yay. Yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. So we thank Keith for that. And next week, Keith is going to be here on Solution Sunday. So we'll be talking a little
Nice.
more about some of the inside effects, I'm sure.
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful.
Beautiful. So Chani, tell us about how does acupuncture work? Because acupuncture is all about the flow of energy through the
Yeah,
body.
so acupuncture is working with your 12 meridians of the body. And so it's basically working to unblock stuck energies and to bring the body back into balance through the manipulation of acupuncture points along the different meridian channels. And then you also get into like the theory of Chinese medicine too, where you're really looking at the whole body and you're taking assessments of the people and doing tongue diagnosis and pulse diagnosis to find underlying and root causes of disease and disharmony as well. But the core of it is really subtle energy medicine. It's really manipulating that energy to flow more effectively through the body. And when that energy is disrupted, it comes about in either hot or cold patterns, interior or exterior patterns, etc. And you're able to kind of categorize the different ailments that people have and then find the acupuncture points that will open up the channel ways and allow that energy to move freely through the body. It's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. So do you think there's a blueprint for the meridians and how they function optimally?
A blueprint. I mean, so I don't know that necessarily anyone has a perfect physiology or like that's, but yeah, I mean, the essence of acupuncture is really if you're doing this consistently every day and also doing the self-care, that's a huge part of acupuncture. Qigong is supposed to be, every single day you're supposed to do 20 minutes to an hour of Qigong to keep your mind and body and spirit healthy. And honestly, that I feel like is probably even more powerful than the weekly treatments, because again, it's that accountability and moving your body and keeping the flow of energy moving. We all become like stuck and stagnant in our chairs and we don't get enough physical activity. So when you're moving your body and allowing that energy to flow through the channels every single day, that's really building your chi and really helping to harness health. So as for a blueprint, I mean, again, I don't think there's like a perfect human, but yeah, some of the monks.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there a blueprint as far as like this meridian starts here and then it goes over to
Oh yeah.
here, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's like
Oh
literally a
yeah.
blueprint
It's
of like
literally a blueprint.
this is where it goes. So
Yeah,
if
here,
there's a
I'll
blueprint,
show you. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
cool.
I understand the question.
Yeah, so like if there's a blueprint and
Blueprint, can you see that?
yeah,
Here, I'll walk over here.
cool.
So yeah, you can really see all
There we go.
the channels and the pathways all the way down. But yeah, the dew channel, your governing vessel starts at the top of the head. It goes all the way to the base of the coccyx. And yeah, so I mean, in that aspect, for actually finding like the blueprints. That's what I'm learning right now. We're learning all the different meridians and then all the points along the meridians.
Awesome. So do you think that if somebody's blueprint, if somebody's meridians were all completely open, balanced, and flowing perfectly, that they would be in really good health?
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so then if what do you think it is that then shuts down some of those nodal points? What makes us deviate from that blueprint?
I feel like a lot of it is, so there's a couple different theories. A lot of it is emotional, and then some of it is definitely physical too. But a ton of it is, emotions. Every element has a corresponding emotion that goes with it. So when those emotions arise, like say, for instance, you have a lot of anger, that's like a pretty good sign that you have liver fire. So it's like, yeah, you can really tell like what meridians are being affected by what emotions people are presenting. And then, you have to take it a lot further than that. It's a very, very broad example. But I mean, yeah, for me, like as soon as they said spleen was corresponding with worry, I was like, oh my God, of course I have a spleen deficiency. Like, I get it. Like, and then once I was able to get treatment for my spleen deficiency, a bunch of my worry went away, so it's like they're interdependent. They're all related. But yeah, everything that we go through on a daily basis emotionally affects us physically, and then certain points become blocked, or whole meridians at some points can be blocked. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. That we start to recognize, wait a second, my emotions are directly affecting the flow of energy through my body. And when I feel, I'm feeling worried, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling afraid, those are all things that shut us down. So those meridian spin points start to close down, and the energy stops flowing, and where they close down affects that part of the body. So if anger is affecting the liver, it means that the energy is stopped flowing in the liver, so there's a blockage there. So then the liver responds to that blockage and goes, hey, let me create some extra cells here, or let me do something to help, see if I can get the energy flowing again. So then we can look at it from, well, we can do a whole bunch of, medicinal or medical interventions, to try to do something to fix the liver, or we can actually look at clearing out the anger.
Exactly.
Or we can also look at opening those meridians back up, because when we clear out the anger, well, then clearing out that emotion automatically opens that back up. Or if we're not able to clear out the anger, if we open that back up with the acupuncture, the anger clears out. So, when we start to understand how it's all interconnected, we can operate from many other angles than just going to the doctor to find out what's wrong with me, an answer to the question we never want to know anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's so true.
So Chani, there are so many ways that you
detrimental to find out that answer too. I don't know if you've ever heard the studies on that, but it's like way healthier to just like not really know. Like,
exactly.
Your body and brain actually have like a definitive diagnosis. Our brains fixate on it, and like we actually make it a lot worse for ourselves. So not to say that we shouldn't have any diagnoses, but like once we do, like so many people like attach it to even their personality, their persona, like it's a very slippery slope that you really have to like separate yourself from your disease or from your illness and not become it, because you're not your disease, you're still yourself, you just have this thing happening to you. But yeah, that fixation can be just as harmful as the actual disease.
Exactly. When we start to understand that I've been having this emotional upheaval in my life, which is affecting this part of my body.
Which is very real.
It's like,
Very
wait a
valid.
sec, then we start to realize, well, wait a second.
But right,
Like my
exactly.
body's actually then not being attacked by some disease. My
Mhm.
body is responding to my emotional trauma.
Mhm.
Let me
Which
clear the
takes,
emotional trauma.
which is actually very painful for a lot of people, and I recognize that. It's something that a lot of people have a very hard time hearing. They don't, it takes them some time to accept that. But I also feel like that's part of the healing process, is to
Absolutely.
kind of go through that like grief of um, you know, almost letting that identity go after they have found out about it.
Mhm. Yeah, and to start to realize the emotion is simply energy in motion. We don't have to make it personal. We
Mhm.
don't always have to own these emotions or own these scenarios that show up in our life.
Be the witness.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I've been having a lot of anger in my life. My
Mhm,
liver is being affected by this anger. And
mhm.
it's like we can beat ourselves up over it all we want, but that's not going to help. And if we
Solve
just
it.
simply say, anger is an energy, let me clear it away from my energy field. Let me move that out. Let me transmute it, alchemize it.
Mhm,
Problem kind of solves itself then.
mhm. Absolutely. Yep.
We are far more powerful than we've ever been allowed to know.
So true.
Oh my gosh. So
We're rediscovering this and we're spreading the knowledge.
exactly. So Chani, you are nature's apothecary. You're the one that dispenses the different herbs and tinctures. And so what are the ways that you can help people?
I have a whole line of herbal remedies and also CBD products right on my website. I actually just came up with some new formulas that people were requesting after the holidays. They're more based around like harm reduction support. There's a liver support, liver care. Um, what did I call them? Kidney care, liver love, and bladder buddy. um, and then so yeah, everything is right on my website, and I have some nice info about them on my social media pages. I'm also just always available for consultations and to help guide people in the right direction. So I'm always open to giving people recommendations for herbal remedies and alternative practices that they can be doing to help manage their health. But yeah, if you just go right to rootalchemy.com, I have the whole store on there, and there's also some beautiful explanations of what I do and who I am and how I might be able to help you on your path. Um, but yeah, there's tinctures, there's salves, and then you can also do like distance Reiki sessions, herbal consultations. The list kind of goes on. I wear many hats. But and not to interrupt you, but there's also a sale going on for this month and into the springtime. And it's Grateful 2023 is the code to get 20% off of everything. But there's also just like discounts across the board that are already on there for a CBD. CBD is becoming really, really popular. Still, again, I don't know. It's really one of those magical herbs though that kind of just like helps everyone with something. But then I also have the whole line without the CBD for people that are looking for just the herbs. So yeah, check out the website and reach out to me if you have any questions.
Beautiful. For anybody who's watching on Facebook, I've put the link in the chat. So just check that out. And if you are watching on YouTube, the links are in the show notes along with the 20% off code. If you are listening on Connecting You to You Radio, check the show notes and you will see the link to Chani's site, to rootalchemy.com. And I can personally vouch for Chani and her incredible wisdom, and the quality of her products is unsurpassed. She
Thank you.
takes
That is something
great
I
time.
definitely take a lot of pride in. Everything comes from small local farms. I'm supporting second generation permaculture farms in Maine from women that I know and love. And everything comes from a place of love and care and respect for the planet. So thank you for saying that, because that is a huge part of what I feel like sets my products apart from other herbal companies.
Absolutely. Everything that I've tried of yours has been absolutely top notch.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Chani, I'm so happy to catch up with you again and have you on. This has been so much fun and so enlightening.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I hope you'll come back again and share some more
Definitely.
knowledge with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa.
You are so welcome. So for everybody watching, please go to rootalchemy.com and check out everything that Chani's got there. She has put her heart and soul into this, and this is the basis of her life. This is her soul's journey. This is what she is here to contribute on this planet in order to help make heaven on earth a reality. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to my channel. If you're looking for anything from me, if you need assistance, simply go to connectingyoutoyou.com. So until next week, everyone, thank you so much and create for yourselves a great week. Bye for now.
Bye for now.